Hey everybody, this is Kevin Wallace, double CCIE and creator of the CCIE Collaboration Walkthrough video series. And in this video, which is a sample from that series, I want to show you how to configure a Cisco Unity Express module from scratch. We'll add users, we'll create mailboxes, we'll set up an auto attendant, we'll use administration via telephone, and here's the twist, we're going to do all of that configuration from the command line, which is what I recommend you do in your actual lab. Stay tuned. In this video, we're going to be setting up a Cisco Unity Express module, and that module is inside of router BR2. We've got a few tasks that we want to do. The first of those tasks is task 7.4. This is where we're going to initialize the module. We're going to get Cisco Unity Express restored to factory defaults, and then in task 7.5, we're going to integrate Cisco Unity Express with our Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express router, and then once we get basic voicemail services working, we're going to do a bit of customization in task 7.6. Again, let's reorient ourselves in our topology. We're here on router BR2. It's a router acting as a Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express router, and installed inside of that router is a Cisco Unity Express module. And the next task that we're going to be tackling is task 7.4, which is going to involve configuration both on router BR2 and on the CUE module. Let's take a look at task 7.4. We're being told that we should set the CUE module to factory default settings if it's not already there. Well, I'm not going to take the time to check to see if it's at factory default settings. I don't want to fall for any traps or burn up time checking things. I'm just going to reset it to factory defaults. That's going to give me more peace of mind. And we're going to set up Cisco Unity Express, the module, to have an IP address of 10.10.160.2/24. Now, that's interesting because that's on the same subnet as our IP phones. Remember, we've got that SVI interface, VLAN 600. It's got an IP address of 10.10.160.1. Here we're being told that this CUE module should have an IP address on that subnet. But the CUE module is going to go through a service module interface. It shows up as a separate interface in our router. It's going to use that service module, I think it's 1/0 interface, to get out to the rest of the world. How can that service module interface be on the same subnet as our VLAN 600 interface? We'll take a look at that. When we configure this module, we want it to have a name of CUE. Here's the domain name. Here's the NTP server's IP address. Here are the administrator username and password credentials. And when I set this to factory defaults, it's going to reboot, it's going to reset, and it's going to take, with the particular hardware that I'm using, about 3 minutes, maybe just a hair over 3 minutes to reboot. And once it does that, we've got a 2-minute window. We've got 120 seconds to answer a prompt asking us if we want to start the configuration. And I want to make sure that I catch it during that 2-minute window so that I can say, yes, I want to start the configuration. If I don't start the configuration after 2 minutes, it will assign some default values. It will assign a default value for the host name. It will assign a default value for the domain name. It will assign a default value for the NTP server's IP address. And in order to meet the task requirements, I would have to go back and change all that. I don't want to do that. I want to catch it during that 2-minute window. But I don't want to just sit there and wait for 3 minutes for this thing to reboot. So I want to keep busy while it's rebooting. What am I going to keep busy doing? Well, I want to keep busy by going ahead and doing a little bit on the next task, which is integrating the CUE module with Communications Manager Express. We're told that we're going to have a voicemail number of 4500. So when a user presses the voicemail button on a phone, it's going to be in the background dialing 4500. There are different ways we can set up message waiting indication, but we're going to set things up such that our MWI numbers are going to be 4510 to turn on the message waiting indicator on a phone, that red light on a phone's handset. It's going to be 4511 to turn off that indicator. And when a user logs into voicemail, they're logging into their account. And we're going to have these account names. These are the usernames for the voicemail accounts. They're going to log in with a PIN of 12345. And if somebody doesn't answer a call within 10 seconds, or if they're on a call, if the phone's busy, then that call should divert to voicemail. And we want to make sure that MWI works. All right, let's get started by going over to router BR2 and initializing that Cisco Unity Express module. First, I'm going to do a show IP interface brief. Let's take a look and see what is our interface to which our Cisco Unity Express is connected. It's going to be this one. It's service module 1/0. And notice that interface VLAN 600 has an IP address of 10.10.160.1. We need to assign an IP address to this, and it's got to be in the same subnet. How can we do that? Well, let me show you. Oh, also notice that service module 1/0 is administratively down. I'm going to go into service module 1/0, and I'm going to administratively bring it up. I'll say no shutdown. Now that I've done that, here's how I'm going to assign the IP address to meet this interesting requirement. I'm going to use the IP unnumbered feature. I'm going to say IP unnumbered, and then I can specify an interface whose IP address I want to share. That's right. I can say I want to share the IP address of interface VLAN 600. Nice. So in other words, I logically, service module 1/0 logically has an IP address of 10.10.160.1. But the Cisco Unity Express module itself, think of that as like a PC hanging off of this SM 1/0 interface. Just like a PC hanging off of a router interface, that PC has to have an IP address. That PC needs a default gateway. So let's assign an IP address and a default gateway to the Cisco Unity Express module. Here's how we do that. We say service-module IP address, and we're told that we should have an IP address of 10.10.160.2 with a 24-bit subnet mask. We'll say 10.10.160.2 with a 24-bit subnet mask. We need a default gateway. I'll say service-module IP default-gateway, and that's going to be 10.10.160.1. It's the IP address of VLAN 600 that I'm going to be sharing on this service module 1/0 interface. That's going to be my default gateway. Let's take a look now. Let's do a show IP interface brief again. And this is interesting. Even though VLAN 600 has an IP address of 10.10.160.1, so does service module 1/0. Same IP address. Now, there is a challenge. Even though I'm sharing that IP address, imagine a packet trying to get back to the Cisco Unity Express module. When it hits the router's routing table, what's to prevent the router from just sending that packet destined for 10.10.160.2? What's to prevent the router from sending it out interface VLAN 600? That's not what we want to do. We want to send it out of interface SM 1/0. Well, to ensure that traffic is going to get back to the Unity Express module, I'm going to set up a static route. I'll say IP route when we're trying to send traffic to 10.10.160.2, and I'll give a 32-bit subnet mask because we're specifying a specific host, not just a subnet. I'm going to say we're going to go out of service module 1/0. Great. Now we can connect to our Unity Express module. Here's how we do that. We say service-module, and we give the interface identifier of SM 1/0, and I'm going to give the keyword of session. And by saying session, that's like saying we want to telnet to this module. So we're going to connect over to this module. You see it currently has a name of CUE, which sounds like we're in good shape. That's the name that we should have, but it said we should set this to factory default settings. There might be some lurking setting in there that I don't know about. I don't want to fall for a trap, so I want to reset this to factory default settings. Here's how we do that. First, we go offline. We say offline. Are we sure we want to go offline? Yes, we're sure we want to go offline. Then I'm going to say that I want to reset this to factory defaults. I say restore factory default. Do I want to continue? It's going to erase the configuration on my module. Yes, I do. It's going to come back in just a few moments and say that it needs to reboot in order for this restoration to factory defaults for it to take effect. It's during that time that I want to keep busy. I want to go out and do something else. It says press any key to reload. When it reloads, I'm going to do a Control-Shift-6 on my keyboard and then press X. I'm going to release Control-Shift-6. I press those all at once. I release those and I press X, and that's going to bring me back to the BR2 prompt. When I get back to the BR2 prompt, I'm going to work quickly. I've got about 3 minutes. I'm going to work quickly, and I'm going to try to set up a dial peer that will get my Communications Manager Express phones over to the Unity Express module. And by the way, it's SIP communication. It has to be a SIP dial peer that points over to the Unity Express module. And you'll notice that a little bit later on, we're going to be calling 4550. It's going to be an auto attendant number, it looks like. So I want to make sure that I can call 4550. I can call 4500. I'm going to make sure that we can call all numbers beginning with 45. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the clock on my PC, and I'm going to judge what about 3 minutes from now would be. I'm going to come check this in about 3 minutes. So let's reload, and then quickly I will do a Control-Shift 6X, and let's start configuring very rapidly our dial peers. I'm going to say dial-peer voice. I don't remember what dial peer number we left off with, so I'll just say 4500 VoIP. And I'm going to say that my destination -pattern is going to be 45 ... 4500, 4550, whatever it is, 45 ... I want it to go to this Unity Express module. So let's press enter there. And I'll say that this is a SIP version 2 dial peer. And my session target is IPv4:, and the IP address of the Unity Express module, which we know is 10.10.160.2. Let's use DTMF relay to make sure those tones get to the Unity Express module. With voicemail, with Unity Express, I've had the best luck with SIP notify on this particular dial peer. The codec needs to be G711. ULAW. And let's turn off voice activity detection. Looking at the clock, we're about a minute or so in. Let's create our ePhone DNs for the message waiting indicators. I'm going to say ePhone DN, I think 3 is the next one. And we'll say this has a number of, what are we told? 4510 is for MWI on. So I'll say number is 4510, and just as a habit, I will say no reg both. But something interesting with this one, I don't just say 4510, I say 4510 ... You see, when we're turning the message waiting indicator light on a phone, the 4510 represents the fact that we're going to be turning the light on, but these last 4 dots, they represent the phone number on which we're going to be turning the light on. So I'll say number 4510 ... and just a habit, I'll say no reg both, just in case there's a gatekeeper out there. And I'm going to say that this is an MWI on ePhone DN. Looking at the clock, still have about a minute or so left. Let's create another ePhone DN. Let's make ePhone DN 4 be our message waiting indicator off DN. It's going to have a number of 4511, and it's going to be MWI off. Let's see how that reboot's coming along. I'm going to exit out, and I'll just press enter, and that will restore me, or that will reconnect me to my Telnet session. Looks like it's still rebooting. Some stuff's still coming up. Okay, we'll check back in just a moment. Let's go back to BR2. Let's go into telephony service. And let's tell any SIP phones that we have that the voicemail number is 4500. Let's enable MWI. We'll say MWI relay. And let's recreate those CNF files. I'll say create CNF-files. Let's do the same thing for our SIP phones. We'll say voice register global, and I'll say that the voicemail number is 4500. And let's create profile there. So we've globally set things up for our SIP and skinny phones. Let's go back. Is it still booting up? Oh, there it is. It just came back up, and that was about 3, maybe a little bit over 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. Do I want to start the configuration? I'm in that 2-minute window now. Fortunately, I caught it, so I can say, yes, I do want to start the configuration. Am I sure that I want to start the configuration? Yes, I am sure. What is the host name? Well, according to our task, the host name should be CUE. So let's say CUE. What is the domain name? It's going to be kwtrain.com. I'll say kwtrain.com. We'll enter that. Do I want to use DNS? No, I really don't need to. There's no requirement to do that. Am I sure that I don't want to use DNS? Yes, I'm sure that I don't want to use DNS. What's the IP address of my primary NTP server? Here it is. Let's type that in. It's going to be 192.168.1.78. I don't have a secondary NTP server, so I'll just press enter there. And we're pretending that this is in Tokyo, so we're going to say that the location is in Asia. We're setting up the time zone. It's in Asia, and specifically it's in Japan, so I'll say 19 to indicate Japan. And it just confirms, do you really want to set this up for Tokyo? And I'll say 1 for yes. Yes, I do. Am I going to be integrating Cisco Unity Express with a Cisco Unified Communications Manager server, or am I going to be integrating this with a Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express router? Well, we're integrating it with a router. Router BR2 is a Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express router. So I'll say 2. That's my integration type. And now it's going to do a bit more configuration for us in the background, but that's the section that I wanted to catch. I wanted us to catch it when it was asking us if we wanted to enter that initial configuration or not. So great news, we did. While it's finishing up there, we don't have to worry about our time constraints anymore. I'm going to go back, Control-Shift-6X. I'm going to go back to BR2. And back on BR2, let's finish what we were doing. We were configuring Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express for voicemail. And we already went into telephony service and said, here's the voicemail number. We went into voice register global and said, here's the voicemail number. Something else we need to do though. This relates to how the Unity Express module sends message waiting indicator information over to our Communications Manager Express router. It's going to use SIP. We're going to say SIP UA. We go into SIP user agent configuration mode. And I need to specify who is the MWI server and how are we going to be receiving those message waiting indication updates. I'm going to say MWI-server, and it's the IP address of our Unity Express module, which is 10.10.160.2. And I'm going to say unsolicited. We've got options, but I typically use unsolicited. We can receive a message waiting indicator message even though we didn't request one. I've had the best luck with this approach. Neglected to say IPv4 before my IP address. No big deal. We'll just go fix that. IPv4. That did it. Now I want to go in and tell my phones to go to voicemail if they're busy or if they don't answer after 10 seconds. Let's go into ePhone DN1. This is for that phone number on BR2 phone 2. I'm going to say call forward. Your call forward action under a busy condition is 4500. Call 4500. That's voicemail. Or your call forward instruction in the event of a no answer condition is going to be to call 4500. What constitutes a no answer condition? We'll set the timeout to 10 seconds. An ePhone DN1, it might be set up as a dual line. It might be set up as an octal line. If it's set up with more than one line, then calling into our phone while we're on the phone is not going to create a busy condition. If I really want a busy condition to happen when I'm on the phone, when I'm in one call, I need to give this command. I can say hunt stop channel 1. In other words, don't hunt to any more channels. If this directory number is busy on the first channel, don't try any more channels. It's a busy condition. Now let's go set things up for our SIP phone, BR2 phone 1, which is our Cisco 9971 phone. We'll say voice register DN1. And I'll say that the call forward behavior, we have to say B2B UA, that's back-to-back user agent. On a busy condition, we're going to go to 4500, our voicemail. Should have been B2B UA, not US, for back-to-back user agent. There we go. And I'll say call-forward back-to-back user agent on a no answer condition is go to 4500. What constitutes a no answer condition? A timeout of 10 seconds. And again, we want to say hunt stop channel 1. So if we're on one call, that's going to constitute a busy condition. Now let's go into ePhone 1 and reset that phone. And this is going to be BR2 phone 2 so that it can pick up its new voicemail instructions. And now let's go into voice register pool 1. That's BR2 phone 1. We'll reset it as well. Now, while those are resetting, we're all set to go back and finish up our configuration of our Unity Express module. I'll just press Enter to return. And it says, what is the administrator ID? Well, we were told to use an administrator ID of administrator. And we were supposed to use a password of Cisco. Let's enter that. And the system is online. Fantastic. And we see our other phones have now registered back. All right, I think we've completed task 7.4, and we've done a bit of 7.5, but let's cross off 7.4 from our list. We've completed task 7.4, and that required work on both router BR2 and on the Cisco Unity Express module, so we'll cross both of those out. And we've already done some work on task 7.5. That's the integration of Cisco Unity Express with our Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express router. But let's go complete now task 7.5. Let's take a look at task 7.5 again. We've already taken a brief look at it. We saw that this is our voicemail number. This is our message waiting indicator number for MWI on. Here's MWI off. We need to have usernames of BR2 phone 1 and BR2 phone 2. Here's our PIN. And we've already set our phones up to meet the requirement of diverting to voicemail if we're busy or diverting to voicemail if we don't answer within 10 seconds. But we still have some work to do. Let's go back to our Cisco Unity Express module, and here's a big recommendation. Some people disagree with me on this, but I feel strongly that this is the best way to go. I recommend on the Real Lab, unless you're required to do so, I would configure Cisco Unity Express from the command line rather than using the GUI. In the real world, there's a fantastic graphical user interface that you can use to configure just about anything you need to configure on the Unity Express module. I love it. It's a beautiful interface, very powerful. And if you need to do some sort of scripting, I would definitely use that. However, if I don't have to do any sort of scripting, then I want to do everything from the command line. Personally, I found it to be much faster. I don't have to worry about setting up web services on my Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express router. I don't have to get credentials set up. I don't have to worry about any sort of security restriction that might prevent me from connecting to the web page of Cisco Unity Express. I would just much rather do it from the command line. And this might be a bit intimidating because the operating system used by Cisco Unity Express is not Cisco iOS. Let's do a show run. Just to give you a sense of that real quick, you can see that these commands do not look very much like Cisco iOS commands. There are a lot of these CCN commands, and we've got service commands. The great news is we can just take a look at the commands that are there and use those as sort of a command reference guide for setting up everything we need. Well, the first thing I want to set up is a trigger that says when a call comes in via SIP, destined for 4500, that's what triggers the voicemail application. And you see that we can have an HTTP trigger, but I can just follow this syntax. Let's go into global configuration mode. And I'm going to say, I want to set up a CCN trigger for a SIP call with a phone number of 4500. And by the way, I could have used context-sensitive help right there. I could have said CCN trigger question mark, and it would have told me SIP was an option. Then I could have done another question mark, and it would have told me phone number was the only option. So context-sensitive help could really have taken me by the hand and walked me through that. So if you're not super familiar with it, we can lean on context-sensitive help. Now, I want to say that when this phone call comes in via SIP to 4500, I want to run an application. Now let's see how we invoke an application using this trigger as an example. It looks like we say application, and then in quotes, we give the application name. I wonder what the application name is for voicemail. Let's see. Oh, here it is. There's an application named voicemail. How about that? So I'm going to say application voicemail, and you don't have to put that in quotes. And following this as a guide, I'm going to say that we're enabled. Let's enable that trigger, and I'll say that the maximum number of sessions is, pick a number, I'll just say 6. We're not told one way or the other what it should be. So now I've defined this SIP trigger. Fantastic. That was easy enough, and I just used the existing configuration as a guide. We could also lean on context-sensitive help, and I didn't have to worry about setting up web services on my Communications Manager Express router, setting up credentials to log in via the web service. I didn't have to worry about any security restrictions that might prevent me from logging in via the web. Now I need to set up my usernames. We're told that we need to have a username of BR2 Phone 1 and BR2 Phone 2. Again, if I'm not super familiar with this operating system, I can just go look at the existing configuration for some guidance. It looks like I need to first create a username. I'll say username, give the username and say create. So let's say username BR2 Phone 1, create. Username BR2 Phone 2, create. Now that I've got them created, I need to associate them with their phone numbers. So when BR2 Phone 1 calls in with its number of 4001, I want it to be recognized as being associated with the BR2 Phone 1 account. So I'll say username, and again, I can use context-sensitive help. I can say username BR2 Phone 1. It even tells me in context-sensitive help my available usernames. That's kind of cool. And I'll say I want to be associated. Well, let's use context-sensitive help if we don't remember how this works. I want to be associated with the phone number of 4001. Let's set this up for BR2 Phone 2. It's going to be associated with the phone number of 4002. And at this point, you might be a bit skeptical about using the command line interface because you're accustomed to doing it via the GUI. Please remember that this may be your first time seeing it. I don't know if you've worked with this before or not, but if this is your first time seeing it, please don't be thrown by these commands, because think about it. After you practice this a few times, after you do 10 practice labs, this should just come to you right off the top of your head. We're not having to learn all the ins and outs of this operating system. We just need to know a few things. And the next thing we need to do is to set up a voice mailbox for each one of our users. To do that, I'm going to say voice mailbox, and we can use context-sensitive help. We need to specify the owner. I'll say owner. Let's use some more context-sensitive help. And then let's say, who's the owner? And I'll say, and you don't have to put this in quotes unless you have a space in the owner's name. I'll say it's BR2 phone 1. That's the voice mailbox owner. I don't need to set up anything beyond that. I just say, you're the owner of a mailbox. And then I'll do the same thing for BR2 phone 2. And we're done with that. And remember, we were also given numbers that we should use for MWI on, MWI off. Well, the great news is there's already a configuration in here. It has the incorrect phone numbers that we have to change the directory numbers, but the actual syntax is here. We just need to update this. Here it is. We're going to go into CCN application, Cisco MWI application. And we just need to change these two values. Well, that's easy enough. I'm just going to copy this and paste that in to get into that configuration mode. And then I'm going to modify those two phone numbers. Let's take this one. I'll copy and I'll paste it. And this is for MWI off. And that was going to be a number of 4511. Let's enter that. Let's go copy and paste this one for MWI on. Let's do a copy and a paste. And we'll change the number to 4510. And we're done with that. Now, even though we're not going to take time right now to go through a full exhaustive test of the message waiting indicators in voicemail and whether we divert to voicemail after 10 seconds or not, that could take a while to test on both of our phones. I do want to do just a quick check to make sure that we are getting to voicemail. I want to make sure the basics are working. And then at the end of the day, during the verification time, if there's time, we'll come back and we'll do a more exhaustive test of voicemail. But for now, I'm just going to go to each of my phones, BR2 phone 1 and BR2 phone 2, press the voicemail button and make sure that I get that voicemail prompt. Here we have BR2 phone 1 and BR2 phone 2. What we're going to do is just do a quick check to make sure that if we press the voicemail button on these phones, that these phones really are going to be dialing up our Cisco Unity Express module, and we're going to get that initial prompt. And later at the end of the day, if there's time, we'll do a more exhaustive test. But for now, let's press the voicemail button.
Welcome to Cisco Unity Express. Take a moment to...
That sounds perfect. We connected to our mailbox. Let's press the voicemail button on BR2 phone 2.
Welcome to Cisco Unity Express. Take a moment to...
Great. I think we're now done with this task. Let's go cross it off. We've now completed task 7.5. We can cross that task off both for router BR2 and for our Cisco Unity Express module. One more task to tackle in this video, and that's task 7.6. We want to do a bit of customization on our Cisco Unity Express module. Let's go check out task 7.6. Here's task 7.6. We're told to configure Cisco Unity Express so that when somebody calls 4550, they hear a message. Congratulations, you have successfully completed this task. All right, that's not a default message. That is a custom message that we'll have to set up. But first, what we will want to do is to set up an auto attendant on 4550 so that we can call in and get an auto attendant announcement. Once we get that set up, then we can customize it. We can use AVT, administration via telephone, to customize our message. But first, let's go over to our Cisco Unity Express module and let's set up that auto attendant to answer when we call 4550. Remember, we set up our SIP dial peer on router BR2 such that it would send any number beginning with 45 over to the Unity Express module. So 4500 works, 4550 should work as well. We're in good shape there. Now let's use our existing configuration as a guide once again, so we don't have to completely become a master of this somewhat foreign operating system. We're going to create an auto attendant trigger very similar to the way that we created a voicemail trigger just a few moments ago. Remember when we set up this trigger just a few moments ago? We're going to do something similar to that. We're going to say CCN trigger SIP when we dial a phone number of, it's going to be 4550 this time. Now, what application are we going to invoke? Well, it doesn't tell us in context-sensitive help, so we can just go look. If we don't remember, we can go look for that application. We're looking for an auto attendant application. Oh, here we go. CCN application auto attendant. So we'll just type in application auto attendant. We'll say that it's enabled, and I'll say the max session is 2. For no particular reason, it didn't tell us what to use there. I'll say end. Now let's do a test. Let's go and call number 4550 and see if it answers with a generic auto attendant announcement. Here on BR2 phone 1, let's call the number 4550 that we just set up to go to the auto attendant. Let's say 4550.
Welcome to the automated attendant. To enter the phone number of the person you're trying...
Okay, we got the generic greeting for the auto attendant, but the task requires that we set up a custom greeting. We can set up a custom greeting over the telephone using the service called AVT, Administration via Telephone. Let's set that up. Back on our Cisco Unity Express module, let's set up the AVT, the Administration via Telephone feature. What application specifically are we going to be invoking? Let's look at our available applications. See, there's voicemail, and this is it, prompt management. We want to be able to call into prompt management and change a prompt. So that's the application. Now we need to set up a trigger to use, and we've already set up a couple of triggers already, so we'll just follow that pattern. Let's go into global configuration mode, and I'll say CCN trigger SIP phone number, and we're not told what phone number to use. I'll just say it's 4551. That should work fine. And I'll say that the application is, and let's go copy and paste that application name we saw earlier. It's prompt management. Copy, paste. We'll say it's enabled. The maximum number of sessions we'll say is just 1. That'll be fine. And we'll say end. One other thing we need to do though, when we call in to prompt management, we have to have administrator privileges. So I'm going to set up one of my users. We'll say user BR2 phone 2. It needs to be an administrator, so it can have permissions to do prompt management. Let's see how we make somebody a member of the administrators group. Again, we don't have to have the syntax memorized. We can just reference our running config. Here we see a command, a group name administrators. Currently has a member of administrator. Well, I want to add a member of BR2 phone 2. So let's do that. Let's copy and paste that. I'll say that the group name of administrators has a member of BR2 phone 2. And I'm going to save my configuration. I'll do a copy run star just like we do in Cisco iOS. And what I need to do now is go over to BR2 phone 2, and it's going to prompt me to log in to the AVT service. And to log in, I need to have a PIN set up, and I've not yet established a PIN. I need to do that. So I'm going to set up my voicemail on BR2 phone 2, giving myself a PIN of 12345. In order to use the administration via telephone service, I need to have a PIN on my phone, because when I log in, I'm going to be logging in as a user associated with the phone number, and that phone number has to have an associated PIN. So what I should do right now, in fact I need to do this for the voicemail task anyway, is I'm going to go to each phone and complete the registration where I provide a name and I provide a PIN. Let's start with BR2 phone 1.
Welcome to Cisco Unity Express. Take a moment to personalize or update your settings. To exit, press star. A recorded name identifies you to other callers. It also lets others know who left a message. You have no recorded name. To record a new name, press 1. To record a new name, say your first and last names at the tone, then press pound.
BR2 phone 1.
Your recorded name is
BR2 phone 1.
To record a new name, press 1. To keep the recorded name, press pound. When callers cannot reach you, they may leave a message. A personal greeting encourages callers. Your standard greeting is, sorry,
BR2 phone 1.
is unavailable. To re-record this greeting, press 1. To set the recording type for this greeting, press 2. To continue, press pound. A password protects the privacy of your messages. Your password must be at least 3 digits long. Use a password that is easy to remember, but hard for others to guess. For extra security, you can occasionally be asked to change your password.
Based on our
Enter
task,
your new
I'm just going to
password,
enter
followed by
1,
pound.
2, 3, 4, 5, and then a pound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pound.
Enter your new password again to confirm it, then press pound. Your new password is active. You have finished enrollment.
BR2 phone 1. Let's now set up BR2 phone 2. We'll enroll it.
Welcome to Cisco Unity Express. Take a moment to personalize or update your settings. To exit, press star. A recorded name identifies you to other callers. It also lets others know who left a message. You have no recorded name. To record a new name, press 1. To record a new name, say your first and last names at the tone, then press pound.
BR2 phone 2.
Your recorded name is
BR2 phone 2.
To record a new name, press 1. When callers cannot reach you, your standard greeting is, sorry,
BR2 phone 2.
is unavailable. To re-record this greeting, press 1. To set the recording type for this greeting, press 2. A password protects the privacy of your messages. Your password must be at least 3 digits long. Use a password that is easy to remember, but enter your new Your new password is active. You have finished enrollment.
All right, I've got both phones enrolled, and now I've got a PIN or a password associated with the BR2 phone 2 account. Let's go in to AVT, log in, and change the message. Let's dial 4551.
Please enter your extension, followed by the pound key.
Let's authenticate ourselves. 4002.
Please enter your PIN number, followed by the pound key.
12345.
Welcome to administration via telephone system. To administer automated attendant alternate greeting, press 1.
That's what we want to do.
Press 1 to record the alternate greeting.
Let's record an alternate greeting.
Record the alternate greeting at the tone. To finish recording, press the pound key.
Congratulations! You have successfully completed this task.
The alternate greeting you just recorded is as follows.
Congratulations! You have successfully completed this task.
Press 1 to save and activate this alternate greeting. The alternate greeting is now active. Goodbye.
All right, we've got our alternate greeting set now. That's good. Let's confirm that it works. What we're going to do now is, we can go to either phone, but I'll go to BR2 phone 1, and let's dial in to our automated attendant at 4550, and let's see if we get that alternate greeting. Congratulations, you have successfully completed this task. And based on that message, I think we have successfully completed this task. Let's go cross it off. We've now completed task 7.6, so we can cross that off of our list. And that's the last task that we wanted to tackle in this video. So let's sum up this video with a couple of key lessons. One key lesson that we talked about in this video dealt with time management. Specifically, we've got a period of time, about 3 minutes or so, while the Cisco Unity Express module is rebooting. We don't want to just sit there and wait for it to reboot. We want to do something else. And something else that we could do during that time is moving ahead to the next task and start to configure, maybe globally for our skinny phones and globally for our SIP phones, we could start to configure voicemail support for Cisco Unified Communications Manager Express. And another tip we gave you, another recommendation that I've personally found works best for me, is when we're configuring Cisco Unity Express, I prefer to use the command line interface instead of the graphical user interface. And I'll agree that it is a somewhat foreign operating system running on that Unity Express module. It is not Cisco iOS. However, if we do it a few times and we use the existing configuration as a guide, it can dramatically speed up the time it's going to require us to configure things on the Unity Express module. And that wraps up module number 8. In our next module, we're going to start configuring things on our Cisco Unified Communications Manager servers. If you want to learn even more about Cisco collaboration technologies, just click the link in the description or on the right side of the screen, and I'll send you more training videos. And if you don't want to miss any of my YouTube videos, be sure and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.